Snail racing and goose picking. This might be one of the craziest stories on all the internet. You might want to stick around to hear this. And it all happened inside a Louisiana prison. They had these dudes inside the prison system that worked on what you call light duty. And one thing that you do on light duty is goose pick. And if you don't know what goose picking is, all it simply is going around inside the prison yard and picking grass, right? Any kind of grass or weeds that are growing anywhere, they pick that. Kind of like a goose would go down and pull some weeds with its beak. People are using their hands as a beak. They train them to do this in prison because they can't work in the field because they're too crazy. They can't trust them in the field, and they all on that medicine, that Thorazine, that Cinequan, and all that crazy medicine. So they keep them inside the main prison, and the dudes who are crazy like that, they goose pick all day long. Or you might be a regular dude, and you might actually go goose picking because you have a duty status. A duty status might be you might have sprained your ankle playing basketball, or you might have gotten in a fight and you might have got hurt, so they got you goose picking for a little while. But they got some dudes in prison, they are certified 5150. That's right, they certified crazy. So they ain't never gonna go in the field. They ain't never gonna let them work in the kitchen. They ain't never gonna let these dudes have a hobby shop slot or nothing like that because they're not gonna trust them. So all they do all day long is goose pick. A lot of these dudes are what you call indigent as well. And they're indigent, which means they don't get no money, they don't have no family takes care of them. So they just crazy. And if you've seen these dudes, you would know that they were crazy. Well, one day, the prison goes on a lockdown. A lockdown inside a prison system means there is a security breach or a security issue that's concerning to the staff inside the prison. So what they'll do is lock down the whole prison. So anybody's on work call, they'll call work call in. They'll call only people who will be allowed to move to and fro anywhere. They'll be heavily supervised and guarded from point A to point B. It might be the people who work in the kitchen, right? And that's it, because they still got to serve food. Well, everybody else is going to be stuck in the dormitory, stuck in their cells. There's no movement. So one day, all of a sudden, the prison goes on lockdown. And when it goes on lockdown, all of a sudden, they call them riding out. You seen dudes getting riding out. And all the dudes that were getting rolled out were all the crazy dudes. And everybody's looking like, dang, man, ain't that crazy dude? Oh, they go another one of them crazy boys. And they were all getting sent to the hole. And so when you get sent to the hole and you get rolled out, they put handcuffs on you and they bringing you back to isolation, solitary confinement. So they bringing these dudes to isolation and solitary confinement. And when they walk, and these are the type of dudes, they so crazy, they can't even walk normal. They shuffle their feet. And you see a bunch of dudes just coming down the walk, like zombies. They're on that medicine, you know what I mean? And they dragging their feet. You can hear the feet scraping the concrete. And you can hear them moaning, and like, dang, man, what happened, man? Because I ain't never seen, the whole jail has never seen all the certified 5150 crazy people get locked up and brought to prison. But this particular time, they did. And when they did, everybody's trying to figure out what happened. Well, all of a sudden, word gets around the compound that they were gambling. And everybody's like, what? The crazy people don't gamble. These dudes are the really crazy people. They don't really gamble. These are the type of guys, right? They go around picking cigarette butts off the ground. Like if an officer smokes a cigarette and flucks the cigarette on the ground, which sometimes officers will do, but most officers are respectful and they'll put it inside the cigarette cans. They call it a butt can. A butt can is usually made out of a metal tin can that the sweet peas, green beans, or peaches might have been in that they're going to use to cook with. They'll clean those out and they'll drill them into or set them on the ground throughout the prison, yard and dorms. And that's where people who smoke put their butt cans. So people who put their cigarette butts in there, well, them crazy dudes, they go out there and they dig through them butt cans and they get them cigarette butts. And when they get them cigarette butts, what they do is they unroll them and re-roll them. So most of these crazy dudes all have tuberculosis and hepatitis, right? Because they all smoking off each other. They used to shoot dope off each other on the street, right? And so a lot of these dudes got diseases, so nobody else won't really smoke off them, but they'll beg for cigarette butts. And, dudes have compassion, so they'll give them the cigarette butts. Well, come to find out, these dudes were gambling with re-rolled cigarettes, betting on snail racing. You looking at me saying snail racing? That's right, these dudes were racing snails. I'm like, man, they would, because you can't, if you get caught gambling in prison, sometimes they catch you running books, right? Dudes gamble on tickets, pick 3, pick 7 on a football, basketball game. But I even heard dudes spider fighting in prison, betting on that. I got a video on that, but I never seen people snail racing. These dudes were so crazy that they were literally snail racing. And one of them must have got mad that his snail lost the race and he ratted on the rest of them. And so so when they did investigation, you know, the lieutenant found out that there was a gambling ring with the certified crazies, and that the certified crazies were doing something even crazier. They were literally snail racing. And then what happened was, what really made it blow up, from what I was told, that one of the dudes killed the other dude's snail. He snapped on it because his snail kept losing. And so I'm thinking, well, how you snail race anyway? These dudes were so crazy, they'd start goose picking on the prison yard. And after they finished goose picking, they'd come back the next day and they knew where the snails were in the garden. And they were betting, you know what I mean, on which snail would move the furthest. And the snail race that they gambled on might literally take a whole week for them to determine who actually won the race. That's right. So these dudes were racing snails and they all got locked up inside of confinement. They eventually come back to the dorm, back to their regular routine of goose picking, you know, digging for cigarette butts and re-rolling them. But this was the one time that all the crazies got locked up for snail racing. Hey, listen, I know this ain't a story where, you know what I mean, the Crips and the Bloods and the Aryans and the Blacks are fighting and everybody's getting shanked like you hear on all the other channels. I got those stories too. Fights on the yard and all that, but that isn't the day to day every day. It's usually mundane, crazy things that are happening in prison that you don't get to hear about on prison channels. So at the Pin and the Shank, I like to bring you the stories that nobody else talks about, the crazy stories, the weird stories, the unusual stories, the unique stories. So if you like this type of stuff like snail racing and goose picking, and you want to hear something other than who shanked who inside the prison, which, you know what I mean, listen, that does happen, but that ain't happening every second of every single day. It's more mundane stories that are happening every day in prison and people just trying to figure out how to live. But give me a like and subscribe to the Pin and the Shank. And if you like snail racing, give me a thumbs up. Let's get it.